morning, everyone. This is Allison from Fanshawe Pioneer Village. Today we will be reading Chapter 6 of A Boy with the R in His Hand by James Reaney. So Chapter 6 is entitled How to Set Type. And I don't know if you can tell because of the way this takes video, but that type does not seem to be in the correct direction. But it actually is, if you know how to set type. Alec was made an apprentice to Mr. Mackenzie the very next morning, and his first hours in the printing shop on Palace Street made him sure that this was the life for him. In the shop there were 4 boys of his own age, 2 more of about Joel's age, 2 men who were journeyman printers, and Mr. Leavenworth, the foreman. All of them served in one way or another an iron beast that stood in the center of the room. This beast was Mr. Mackenzie's printing press, the first one Alec had ever seen up close. So that would be this monstrous machine there, his printing press. Mr. Mackenzie's press had 4 iron legs, half like chair legs, only with paws on them. It also had a broad iron forehead, which held things together at the top with 2 gold circles for eyes. Between the iron legs and the iron forehead were 2 iron jaws where the journeyman had inked some type and covered it with paper, and when the pressman had cranked at the lower jaw and, by pulling a lever, brought the upper jaw down, squeeze, the lower jaw came out again. The paper was pulled off the type, and there were printed words, black and shining wet, ready to be hung to dry. So if you have ever been to the Pioneer Village and you go to our print shop, which is our free press building, you will notice a printing press kind of like this. It is a Washington press is the one that we have. It's very similar to this one. Not quite so ornamental in some ways, but more ornamental in others. So, a little different from each other. "Don't get your hand caught there, Master Alec," said French. "Why, we had a little apprentice boy in here. He slipped and fell right into the press, and we printed him before we could stop ourselves, flat as a barn door." All along one wall there were laid trays of type, and in front of them was a table with a level stone top. Here the journeymen were setting up type from copy, handwritten on pieces of paper, propped up in front of them. In their left hands they had a composing stick. Their right hands darted back and forth among the type boxes, ferreting out just the right letters. When their sticks, little metal boxes with handles, were squeezed full of type, they would transfer this from the stick to the stone table, where the column of news or advertising they were setting was slowly being built up. Here is a picture of the printing press office. So here we have the printing press itself. Here's the gears and the gentleman pulling the handle to squeeze the print down. And in the very background, you can see somebody working away, probably setting type. The type that was set up, tied together with strings so it wouldn't fly apart, looked like a square pool of water to Alec. He loved the look of it. Mr. Mackenzie came up, put one hand on Alec's shoulder, and one on the set of type. "There's freedom and liberty, lad. There's the mind of the man. All his thoughts that thousands of people will read and find helpful, all these in thousands of wee bits of lead stuck together." Alec reached out and touched the set-up type. It was quite true. He was touching something that, when it was printed and published next Thursday in Mr. Mackenzie's paper, the Colonial Advocate, would be read all over Upper Canada and be part of people's minds forever. "And here," said Charlie French, grinning, "we have some pie. Care to have a slice?" "I don't see any pie," said Alec. All he saw was a boy of his own age painfully sorting out some type he had spilled on the floor. "That's the worst thing you can ever do. Pie the type," said French. "How do you mean?" "When you spent hours setting something up, all of a sudden it goes, pie!" After the type was set up and printed, it was brought back to the stone table, put back into the composing stocks, 10 lines at a time, and then put back, letter by letter, into the case, each one of whose honeycomb-like cells lodged in single letters. The older journeyman could distribute the type so quickly that it sounded like rapid musket fire at a distance when the soldiers were shooting down at the fort. When you added all this up and then put beside it the books and medicines that Mr. Mackenzie had for sale in the office, and the farmers coming in to deliver wood, and the apples as payment for their subscriptions, put beside it to Mr. Mackenzie coming in and with more copy from his private office at the back, and the ships going in and out of the harbor, which you could see through the windows, the sum of it was continual excitement. Mr. Leavenworth now told French to take young Buchanan over to the case by the front door and teach him about quads, ends, and all the rest of it. "What are quads?" asked Alec. "They're big spaces. Now, hold that stick this way, and I'll teach you more than spaces. I'll teach you A, and a great bouncing B all the way up to Z. But first you must learn to read your letters upside down. Here, I'll set up a sentence for you. I'll set you up a sentence of talk, and you see if you can read it." French nimbly filled the stick with letters from the case. Then Alec tried to read what French had set up. "Why are you so thin-looking? Doesn't Uncle John feed you?" So if you look at it there, it's upside down and backwards. Now, really, if you're setting up type most ways, you just only have to really set it up backwards. But this is it's easier for computers to do. "Why are you so thin-looking? Doesn't Uncle John feed you?" tried Alec, reading the upside-down type. "It was being up at the mill. They locked up the bread and cheese," he replied. "I'd have starved if I hadn't caught fish." "Good," said French. "Good, you can read stuff when it's upside down. Bad this miller starved you. Now I'll show you where the letters are in the case." Alec soon mastered the following arrangements of the letters in the compartments of the type case. "There are the ones you gotta be careful of." "These are the ones you gotta be careful of," said French. "B, D, P, and Q. All look alike." That's where the sentences "mind your P's and Q's" came from, was setting up type, because they look the same. Especially when they're upside down. If it looks like a Q, it's a D. If it's a P, really a B. So when I set up the word bad, it looks upside down as dab. See? "No, I don't," said Alec, pressing his eyes with his hand. "Oh, you will," said French. "Now, here's an advertisement for a lost cow. You try to set it up, and I'll come back in half an hour and see how you're getting on." Scribbled on the piece of paper was the following: "Lost, one sandy-colored white cow with white speckles, belonging to F. Shepherd's farm, up Young Street." Now, Alec, when French was showing him the cases, this is what the case looked like. This is called California Job Case, so it's kind of like having on your computer keyboard or any sort of keyboard a home row. It's also a similar idea to how calculators and phones, all of the numbers are always in the same place, so people know where to find them really rapidly. So this is essentially the home row of typesetting. When French came back the first time, Alec had set this up. Lats. Enos, Andy, Colcord, Mulch, Woth, Silkips, with its. French roared with laughter. The next time he came back, Alec had set it up thusly. Lost, one sandy-colored F. Shepherd with white speckles, belonging to Mr. Young on Cow Street. But the next time French came by, Alec had set it up right, and from that moment on, his progress in the skill of typesetting was, as Mr. Leavenworth put it, like a house on fire. So Alec apparently is very good at setting type once he gets the hang of it. So, setting type is a lot like stamps. So if you were to have a stamp at home and a stamp set, when you look at it, it looks backwards, but when you stamp it on the paper, it goes the correct direction. So it's a mirrored image. So it's kind of like actually this video. Everything is mirror imaged. So this actually reads the correct direction, but on the video, it's backwards. So, much like this video, typesetting can be a little bit tricky for that reason. That's why when I go around and I show you things at the Pioneer Village, I have a hard time pointing at things because I'm looking at the screen, but know that things are over in different places. So I know that at my house, my bookcase is over here, but if I'm looking at it, it all seems backwards on the video. So I might point over there thinking, okay, it's all reversed, so I'm pointing this direction, but my bookcase is over there. It's all weird. So friends, I hope you have a lovely day. Maybe you have some stamps at home and you can try making messages to yourself using your stamp kits. You also can use potatoes and different kinds of household objects to make stamps. So if you don't have any, maybe try looking up some stamp making activities and you can try it out yourself. Hope everyone has a fantastic day. Tomorrow we will be making water carriers at 11 o'clock. So make sure that you have a bowl of water, an empty bowl, as well as a piece of computer paper or some kind of paper of that kind of grade, not foolscap, not construction paper, not cover stock or anything like that. Computer paper works best. So I will look forward to seeing you tomorrow for our activity. I hope everyone has a fantastic day and enjoys the sunshine. Have a great morning.